Right now, summer sports are in full swing. Baseball is firing on all cylinders, and there's a certain soccer tournament the world's watching. Something you should be watching is your vehicle's engine. That's why Pennzoil Synthetics gives you complete protection for top engine performance. Pennzoil. Make the switch.
Hard down the lane, bodies there, and a block foul is called. James trying to get him. An offensive foul is going to be called on Kevin Durant as James came over and took the block.
The call with 36 seconds left that was overturned. I think that's inexcusable.
That call has to be made on the court and kept.
I thought I read that play just as well as I read any play in my career. I seen the drive. I was outside the charge line. I stepped in, took the contact. It's a huge play.
It was one of many huge plays that went on down the stretch during Game 1 of the NBA Finals. What an unbelievable start to what we hope will continue to be an epic finals that'll go more than 5 or 4 games. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You can leave us a voicemail at 860-506-5505. We will get to all of them because there is so much, Mike, to get into on what happened Sunday night at Oracle.
I mean, I just wrote down points I wanted to go over. I mean, from the game, JR's decision, Hill missing the free throw, block charge, end of the game with Tristan Thompson getting thrown out. LeBron James not taking that shot and making the pass to George Hill. You call timeout, not call timeout. I mean, who knew that rule?
Yeah.
The block or the review rule, if you're not in the restricted area, but you can change the block charge call. So there were so many questions in a game that there were 50 missed threes.
Right.
50.
And that's their
missed.
money.
I mean, that's unbelievable. Both the teams were 23 of 73 from three-point land. There was some ugly shooting going on. Golden State started hitting them late, hitting some of those threes, and hitting some obviously important threes, like the one right before halftime as well by Steph Curry. But one of the things that can't be short shrift, because we've talked about this with Cleveland, and we'll certainly get into more of the game, but we haven't brought this up, is they so out-rebounded Golden State, 53-38. But here's the kicker, 19 offensive rebounds. The hustle by the Cavaliers now, they were missing shots. They were getting rebounds, offensive rebounds, and missing shots. Make no mistake about it. Again, LeBron was dishing to some guys that were open, and they were missing. But they were hustling and getting those rebounds. That was one of the big reasons that they were in this game, what they were doing on the board.
Yeah, and I know Ryan Hollins, our NBA analyst, our Hot Take Hollins, as we like to call him, was with us last hour, and his takeaway was the Warriors are vulnerable. Yeah, that might have been true in this first game. But if they are vulnerable and you're the underdog, man, you got to take it.
Got to take it.
You got to take it.
Yeah.
And as much as we can talk about, air quotes, moral victories, where this clearly was for Cleveland, you know what doesn't count in an NBA final? A moral victory. You had to win the game for this to actually matter. Now, if they somehow, my God, go out there and take game 2, I'll say, you know what? Ryan Hollins was right. But until they actually beat this team, thank you very much. Until they actually beat this team, I'm going to look at it nothing but too late, had your chance, muffed it.
Listen, I thought they were going to lose by the spread last night. They almost did in overtime, but in no way, shape, or form was it a double-digit game. This was a close, really, really good game, and we could only hope for 7 of these if somehow, some way we could get that.
And again, you knew what happened after Steph hit the 3 at the end of the half, which, by the way, was another blown thing by J.R. Smith going for the steal. Don't let that guy alone.
Stay in front of him. Stay in front of him.
You knew he was going to hit that shot. You knew it. So we all knew what was coming. Here comes the third quarter barrage. They start on, a 12-2 run to start the third quarter.
It was tied at halftime.
And then they only
We're down 6.
By 6.
Down 6.
That's a win for Cleveland.
You saw it started to get away from them in the third quarter, and they reeled it back in to only be down 6. So a really nice job there to make that fourth quarter really interesting, and the end of the game really interesting as well, both good and bad.
Yeah. So again, everything. If you're Cleveland, you had everything you wanted except execution at the end of the half and at the end of the game. It reminded me a lot, Mike, of the regular season game between the Steelers and the Patriots. Okay, the Steelers did everything right except win the game.
Right.
That game, they should have beaten New England. It was there. They made a couple of critical mistakes, which New England never does for the most part. And then it got away from them. And let's be honest, the Steelers were never the same after that. And we'll see if the Cavs can get right after a game that they should have won. They should have won that game. Instead, they find themselves, despite 51 from LeBron, in a 1-0 hole. All right, this hour of Golic and Wingo is brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business. Let's quickly get through what's trending because we've got a lot of great voicemails we want to get to. Want to do voicemails first? We'll do voicemails first.
Okay. Yes.
Stanzik apparently is acting like I just shot his dog. He's so upset. I'm sorry. We'll do the voicemails now. Here we go. Let's start some voicemails because Dan is very upset. Very, very upset. So we asked for voicemails at 860-506-5505. We ask you to call in on your thoughts of Game 1. And here is the first one on J.R. Smith.
Man, J.R. Smith, you've been in the league for 13-plus years. I think it's time you can own it like a big boy. Don't lie and say, well, I knew we were tied, and I was just dribbling it out. Come on. Your coach even told you lied. You're a liar, J.R. Smith. Come clean. Own it.
You know, as far as that, you know, we call that a lot in football where teams I were on wearing the hat.
Yep.
You know, when you're in film and you watch a play and it's your mistake, you own it. And he did another time when he was with the Knicks.
Yep.
He, you know, made a mistake, thought they were down when they were really tied, shot a quick three, missed it, and you could, they showed a picture of years ago of that situation, and he admitted he got the score wrong there. And you could see after he dribbled the ball out, and then, you know, realized went to overtime and the end of regulation was over. You could see him mouthing to LeBron, I thought we were ahead.
Right.
You know, so I was surprised that he said that because obviously it was Ty Lue who said, yeah, he didn't know the score and the whole deal. So I was surprised he went down that road.
And again, here's what happened after the game. Because, look, YouTube has that great thing, bad lip reading, which is hilarious. This seemed like it was pretty obvious that he said, I thought we had the lead. Here was JR after the game.
No, I seen it. I knew we were tied. It's just I thought we was going to call timeout because I got the rebound. I'm pretty sure everybody didn't think I was going to shoot over Katie right there. So.
On the replay, it looked like you said to LeBron, I thought we were ahead.
If I thought we were ahead, then I would have just held on to the ball, let him foul me. But clearly that wasn't the case.
So that's what he said.
Clearly we're not sure what the case was. Ty Lue thinks he knows what the case was.
Exactly.
He thought it was over. He thought we were up one.
So there you go. So that's why that phone call is. Come on, Smith.
Just own it. It's a bad mistake.
Right, again, these are your phone calls. Keep coming them in. 860-506-5505. Here's an interesting take, Mike.
I believe the Cleveland Cavaliers got hosed. You're right. It is a judgment call. Never should have been overturned. However, they should have won this game outright. LeBron James had the ball in his hand way too many times. Dribble. And all the whining. God, soccer players, is that what they are? The hell happened to basketball?
Well, there's a lot to get into there.
There's a lot to get into there.
The one that just stuck with me,
LeBron touched the ball too much. Hold on. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. I mean, they got the switches because Golden State's a switching team, and LeBron got on Steph Curry like he wanted an awful lot, took advantage of it. That's why a lot of people were wondering at the end when he was on him why he didn't drive. Ryan Hollins was in here explaining Draymond Green was basically at the free throw line. They weren't going to get LeBron, let him drive like he had been in that one and have him dish the ball off. He found a wide open George Hill who got away from Klay Thompson. So Klay Thompson made the mistake, and George Hill made a good play of getting away from him. Then Klay Thompson, because he got beat, then did the right thing by just grabbing George Hill to not have a free layup, and Hill ends up making only one of two free throws. But as far as LeBron, that is another. But I'm glad that question isn't coming up. Mike brought that up earlier, that I didn't see it all over Twitter after the game. Why didn't LeBron just take the shot? He should have taken the shot. Golden State was in a position to really not let him drive and give him that.
Correct.
Or to kick it back out, and he had George Hill wide open underneath the basket and made that bullet pass.
He made the right the right basketball decision. And by the way, Klay made the right decision to foul him.
After he got beat.
That's
right.
an easy layup.
Right.
And you put the onus on George Hill to make the free throws, 80% free throw shooter. He didn't make it. But I want to be clear about one thing. If your issue with game one, or part of your issue, because like I got into a lot of it, was that LeBron touched the ball too much, let me be clear. You scored 114 points. LeBron had 51.
Yeah.
All other Cavs that played combined for 63. If anything, he didn't touch the ball enough. And that's the way this series has, this entire playoff has gone for the Cleveland Cavaliers. If LeBron ain't doing it all, this team really isn't working. All right, got another voicemail for you.
Just calling to let you know that game was such a good game. I wasn't too happy about the ending. The refs shouldn't be able to come back and do that. I know it's a rule, but that's a rule.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of us feel that way.
It was a good game because it was a close game because the shooting was not great in this game. Now, Cleveland did end up shooting 44%, and what was it? Golden State ended up shooting 51%. From threes, they weren't all that great. Cleveland, 27%. Golden State did shoot 36%. They missed 50 between them. The shooting wasn't the greatest early on. I thought the officiating was horrible.
They swallowed the whistle in the first half.
On both sides, and I'll say that. I'm not saying one side more than the other. I'm saying on both sides, I thought it was horrible. You can say what you want about the block charge. It is a rule. It's in the books from 2012 on that you can review it about restricted area, and while you're in that review, you can decide if it was a block or a charge. You can change the call. I don't like that, but it is a rule.
Yeah, again, the NBA official Twitter account put it out there, and a lot of people were not aware that you could do this. Again, that if the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter or overtime, officials have doubt whether the defender was in the restricted area, which was they were looking at with LeBron, while reviewing, they may also confirm that the defender was in a legal guarding position when the contact occurred. And that brings us to an interesting discussion, Mike, because everyone's trying to figure out the best use of replay, right? Whether it's the NBA or the NFL. How do we best use this tool to help us do our jobs better? But it feels like we open Pandora's box here in this one, because what they're saying is we're looking at the video for this, but while we're looking at this, we can discover whether or not there was a judgment call that was made. It's like saying in the NFL, was he inbounds or out of bounds, or did he make the catch, and then determining there might have been pass interference. And that just seems wrong.
No, it does. And for whatever reason, they put this rule into play 5 years ago. I don't think a lot of players even know that rule, quite honestly. I mean, there's a lot of rules in all sports. I guess the one thing I would ask is, should it even have gone there? LeBron wasn't even close to the restricted line.
And he wasn't 4 feet like Ty Lue said. He was way outside the restricted area.
To the point where, man, that was an easy, you would think, to see that he wasn't. But maybe game one, they want to make sure, so they go, and then again, the judgment call, they can change. There's so much, everybody's breaking down the definition of a block, of a charge. Steve Javie, the officials, thought it was a charge. Tim Legler, right out of the gate, thought it was a block, and he'll join us in a little bit. Ryan Hollins thought it was a block. But, you know, there were multiple things that went on in that game that could have helped dictate the outcome. That was certainly a big one, though.
Yeah, we continue on Golic and Wingo. We're glad you're with us. We're going through voicemails. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Again, you can leave us a voicemail at 860-506-5505. Now, one of our great voicemail enthusiasts that got us in trouble, by the way, is Tony, because when we had Adam Schefter on at the Combine, Adam apparently hadn't had his coffee or hadn't had his Cheerios or something, and he was a little angry that day, a little short-tempered. He was a feisty little nugget. Right. And then, of course, that's something that went on ESPN 98.7 New York, the radio station Humpty and Canty. She called in there. They called us as thefts of intellectual property. We were like, we can't steal something we didn't know existed. And so Tony, probably going to get us in more trouble, I guess, has also called in. Tony from Akron, this is what she had to say.
JR needs to start walking home now. They need to take his shoes and his jersey and just make him walk in his shorts. And then the rest need to be walking behind him. They can either take this emotionally and implode, or they can come out with serious anger and explode.
All right, so let's put out a legal disclaimer. If in any way, shape, or form Tony at any time has called into ESPN 98.7 New York on the Humpty and Canty show and said someone should walk home and take their shoes away, we were not aware of that. Okay, so this is just our reaction to what Tony had said to us. By the way, they shouldn't make him walk home because they still have a game 2 to play.
Yeah, they do. And I mean,
in Oakland.
But the part she's absolutely right about is how do they react? Because we saw how they reacted in the immediate moment of going to overtime. Because after all that happened, they still had 5 more minutes in a tie ball game. But I think everybody, you saw the looks on their faces. It's a situation where the better team has a chance to stand out, and Golden State really took charge in that overtime, kind of like they took charge in the beginning of the third quarter. And this time Cleveland had no answers coming back.
Look, You're right, absolutely. They should be mentally tougher and they should do this.
Easier said than done.
You're exactly right. Do you know how hard that is to do? And I'm not saying that's an excuse for them not doing it. We're just being honest with the situation. You are the massive underdog. You are in their building. You think you have a chance to win. If you don't think that affects you in some way, shape, or form, you're kidding yourself. And the Golden State Warriors like, whoo, dodge the bullet. Let's just go do what
Let's just do our thing.
And they started raining threes, and it was over really quickly in overtime. Okay, we'll have some more voicemails for us coming up a little bit later. Keep coming in. We love them. 860-506-5505. Golic and Wingo presented by 1-800-Flowers.com. Surprise a friend or loved one today with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen roses absolutely free. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. We won't get into what's trending now. Elsewhere else, some other stuff. We've already talked about the Warriors. But then this is sort of an update, Mike, on a story that's been dominating the headlines this week. Another thing I'm sure the NBA loves, that this is what's being talked about. According to our own Adrian Wojnarowski and Zach Lowe, the 76ers are seriously considering dismissing Brian Colangelo as the Twitter accounts, his burner accounts, or accounts that some have said are his burner accounts, now focusing on his wife. The fallout from a report by The Ringer that connected Twitter accounts unleashing privileged information and provocative attacks on some of the Sixers players has left ownership flushed with embarrassment and anger, and Colangelo fighting for his professional life.
So you haven't had a chance to comment on this, and anybody, if somehow you don't know what's going on, 5 burner accounts of which Brian Colangelo said he did have one of them, but it was just to monitor NBA news. He said he didn't tweet on it. 4 others he said he had no part of, and then there was some connection by phone number of the last 2 digits of his wife's phone number to 3 of these other accounts, so wondering if she is going to be involved. The investigation continues. So when you were reading about this, we brought up obviously Kevin Durant and the burner, Roger Goodell's wife who had it to defend him with media members and such, but this giving out information and such, what was your thought?
Well, look, there's only let's assume, when that's a dangerous path to go down to, I understand. Let's assume for a second that maybe he wasn't aware that his wife was doing this. Okay? Now, it's certainly plausible to say that he would have these conversations about certain things with his wife, and then maybe she decided, much in the same way that Roger Goodell's wife decided, I want to defend my husband here, go out there and did that on Twitter. I believe that if that's the case, I believe he has plausible deniability, because he has already said to Joel Embiid, hey, I didn't do this. And Joel said he told me he didn't do this because there were some harsh comments about Joel from some of those burner accounts. And if that's proved to be true, I believe there's wiggle room here for Brian Colangelo. However, if you can prove somehow that those were his accounts or he was aware that she was doing this, then I don't think there's room for wiggle room.
Yeah, I even think even if he didn't, but it comes from his family, not the defending part, but the part about information coming out about trades, the information coming out about injuries, that stuff. There's one thing to defending your spouse in a situation like that, or commenting on that. There's another of giving out that information, because now, even if he didn't know about it, it's within his family, so what are the 76ers going to think about and the players going to think about? That's what it comes down to. Can you trust this guy? Okay, if it isn't him, but if it's someone in his family and they're giving out information that shouldn't be given out, can we trust him? If we're going after big-time free agents, how is this going to look? So I think that's all going to work very, very badly against him.
Look, there's no question. There's no good look for him.
Yeah.
The question is, if you have a casual conversation with someone in your family that you believe to be just between us, and somehow they take it out there?
I agree, but the 76ers have to look past that and say, okay, what if we want to go after a big free agent and this happens again?
Well,
we get it.
I think there has to be an honest conversation.
But the bottom line is, we don't want this to happen again, so we're going to take care of it right now. I think he's in a lot of trouble here.
I think he is in a lot of trouble. Again, I believe there's plausible deniability and potential. They have to believe how much they think what he did this season was showing on the court, whether it was just Sam Hinkie that's coming to fruition, or whether he had a key part in putting this all together. That will also be a large part. You know this, Mike, and what do we always say about NFL players? the more that you can do, the longer the leash you'll get.
Yeah.
So from the front office perspective, there's two things. Whether they believe he was directing this and was aware of this, or whether they believe he wasn't aware of this and yet he was a big part of putting these pieces together and making them work. And that's something they have to decide for themselves. There's no good look here.
No.
There's just a matter of how bad it can be.
Yeah, how
and
bad the bad is.
Whether they think they can survive this part of it going forward. And a big part of that, obviously, is going to be his relationship with Joel Embiid, because he put it out there saying, this wasn't me, I did not do this. And then if it comes out that it was, I don't think there's any room there. Yeah. There's no room there whatsoever. And we'll finish up what's trending with Tiger Woods doing what he's done all year, Mike, unfortunately. Struggling on Thursday and Friday to make the cut, and then when he does make the cut, he shows out. He was 4 over through his first, 7 holes, I believe? He was really struggling out of the gate, but then shot a really strong back nine to finish at even par. 7 shots behind the leaders, including Hideki Matsuyama, who had at one point 4 birdies and followed that with an eagle on 17. So he went nuts on the back nine.
Listen, Tiger's doing what Tiger has done, is play poorly on Thursday and Friday, or make the cut. He's made the cut in his last 6 events.
Correct.
But in the last 3, he was behind 14, 9, and 13 after the first 2 days. Now, it's day 1 and he's down 7 already. So it's, for those that are waiting for him to take the next step of winning, it's like, okay, well, it's going to be very difficult when after day 1, you're 7 down, and day 2, if it's even a bigger deficit. But the kicker to this one, gang, is he had a tight back.
Yeah.
That the one thing we thought we might be past with his health, he said his back was a little tight on him, stiff on him, and tender on him. So is that going to lead to something?
And that's the interesting thing, too, Mike, because he was very honest about it. In the past, he'd always say, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Broken leg at Torrey Pines 2008, which, by the way, a decade ago is coming up since he won his last major. He was like, I'm fine. Then afterwards, oh, yeah, by the way, I have a broken leg and a torn ACL. He said, look, this is my new reality. Yep. I'm a little older. My spine is fused together. There are going to be certain mornings when it's not there. I think the only good thing, if you're a Tiger Woods fan or a fan of golf, is that he found a way to get it back. I mean, when you start 4 over through 7, the cut line looks like it's a million miles away. The fact that he got it back to level par speaks volumes, and we'll talk about that a lot with Michael Collins, our golf analyst and former caddy, and get his thoughts on what's going forward at a track obviously Tiger is very familiar with. I believe he's won the Memorial 7,432 times.
Every deck is made for standing on, but there's only one that's always had a way of standing out. So if you're looking to bring more style, comfort, and creativity to your life outdoors, call on the brand that's known for making the most in outdoor living. From decking, railing, and lighting to furniture, fencing, and framing, at Trex, we're engineering what's next in outdoor living. To learn more about all of the outdoor solutions Trex has to offer, call 1-800-289-TREX or visit Trex.com. That's TREX.com.
Ryan! I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We continue with you on Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And don't forget, leave us a voicemail, your thoughts on Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We played some of them already. They've been great. The number to call in and leave us a voicemail at is 860-506-5505. That's 860-506-5505. 5505. But no voicemail for this guy because he's one of the best in the business. Always glad to see legs in the studio. NBA analyst Tim Legler joins us in studio giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. All right, dealer's choice. Where do you want to start?
I got the rest of the show, right? Because I got a lot on my mind. I got a lot on my mind.
Where do you want to go?
I think let's start with what everyone wants to talk about more than anything else. It seems like is the block charge.
Yeah,
right. Let's start with that. So I'm watching the game. And
so to set up everybody again, in case they didn't see her up late, there's like 36 seconds to go. The Cavs are up 2, and Kevin Durant drives the lane. LeBron steps in front. One ref calls a block, another one calls a charge. It looked like the call was going to be a charge, and it was going to go the other way, which meant Cleveland would have the ball. Up to 36 seconds ago, so just figure it out from there. They could have run a lot of clock down, maybe been up 4 or 5 possibly, so you don't know where that would have gone. But they went to review because they wanted to know if he was in the restricted area or not. They changed the call to a block, And then there we go from there.
So I'm watching the game live when it happens the first time. It's so fast. It looked to me, my initial reaction was, it looked like he got there late and slid in. Then you could see Ken Maurer on the baseline, and he's waiting, he's pausing, because you could see he's making eye contact with the other official, and then he signals charge. And I'm like, all right, it's charge. It could have gone either way.
So if it was a charge, you didn't have a problem with him calling it?
Not in the moment like that, no, because as you can see, even on slow-mo replay, we got people arguing about it.
Right.
Now, once I saw the replay, it's clear to me that it was a block. But in the moment, no, I'm going, okay, they called the charge. I could see that. It could go either way. Now they're going to take it out. Now they huddle up, and then they go to the monitor. Now, I know the rule that now they're allowed to look at not just restricted area, which is what's supposed to trigger them to go over there.
Right.
They can now also look to see, did they get the call right, the legality of the defender.
So you knew that rule?
Yes.
Man, because
that's why you're the best.
But you just don't see it happen. It's like never reversed. So I'm watching it. Now, here's where I have a problem, and I can side with Cavs fans. I don't know why that would trigger them to go over, because LeBron James was a foot outside the restricted area.
So your issue is there was no reason for them to review it because he was so far outside the restricted area, which then led to them saying, hey, while we're here, we can look at all this other stuff.
Correct, because if they're not worried about the restricted area and there are two refs to blow the whistle at the same time, they've got something different, they're going to make eye contact, they're going to determine who had the better angle, and then that guy's going to go with the call, and that's the end of it. But what they did was they tied in, well, let's make sure there was no restricted area situation here. That allows us to go to the monitor.
Gives them an excuse to go there and check it out.
And last night, late night, Joe Borgia, I thought had a pretty good explanation, which was the third official, who hasn't been talked about much, was Eddie Malloy. He's over on the sideline opposite the bench. He comes over because Jeff Green's foot goes into the restricted area, but he's not taking a block charge. Right. He's riding LeBron in. And Joe Borgia said, well, it's possible that Eddie Malloy, saw a leg in there. They see something on that line. Now he comes in and says, listen, we got to make sure we get this right with the restricted area because there's a foot in there. They go, now that gives them a reason to look. Now, so you can argue all you want about that part of it. Should they have gone over there? I can see why people be upset. He wasn't close to the restricted area, LeBron.
Right.
So you don't go over it all. But once they did, and they look at that replay in slow-mo as many times as we did, to me, that is a block once they've looked at it. He's late, he's turning, he's sliding, and I don't think he takes the full brunt if he doesn't continue and lean his upper body in. I don't think he takes the full brunt where it's an obvious charge to people. For me, that's a block. That's a traditional block, but what I've always known it to be. So I think that part they got right, but I don't think they necessarily had a reason to go over to the monitor.
Again, Tim Legler with us, our NBA analyst. This rule, which is going to come under so much scrutiny, is it's a time and place for the review because it's under 2 minutes and it's close to the restricted area. If this happened with 2 minutes and 3 seconds near the 3-point line, we're not having this discussion.
Correct.
Right?
They're just going with the call.
They're going with the call. So with that being said, as a former player as well as an analyst, do you like the idea that they can go and let's be honest, just like pass interference in the NFL, block charge is an interpretation. It's a judgment call, what it was. Do you like the ability that they have because of this rule and go, let's review that judgment call?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because you could take 100 officials.
Right.
Line them all up next to each other with a monitor in front of them, watch the replay, and you still aren't going to get a consensus. You're going to get 60-40, maybe. And so for me, it's such a subjective thing. The way you talk about pass interference, a good example. For me, it's so subjective. You have to go with what the initial call is. That's why I don't like the ability to go look at it, because to me, in a lot of cases, it's still not going to be conclusive in a lot of guys' minds, and officials are going to interpret that differently, including Steve Javie, who we went to in the moment while they're reviewing it. And Steve Javie, longtime NBA official, he's in the replay center, and he said, no, I think this is going to be a charge. It looks like he's got, legal defending position set up. So that's my point. If you're still going to get a lack of consensus by looking at it, then go with the initial call on the court. So that's on that kind of call. Now, if it's goaltending, something like that, it's a little bit easier to see. Yes. Somebody stepping on a line, that's completely different.
Agree. Yeah.
But this is something that's block charge, and since James Naismith invented the block charge, it's who knows, right? everybody sees it differently, and it depends on who you want to win the game. Typically, is how you see the call.
Right.
That's kind of how it goes.
Can't do anything about it now. The rule is in place. They're not going to change it now, but I think everybody is going to agree, man, that's something they need to look at after the season, and maybe, say, reviewing a judgment call is just a bad way to go. We're going to get to the J.R. Reed at the end of the game.
J.R. Smith.
J.R. Smith, I'm sorry.
J.R. Reed was my
North Carolina, baby, number 34.
J.R. Smith at the end of the game. But at the very end of the game, what did you think of the Tristan Thompson call of tossing him right away when he went up to block a Livingston shot, who many think, why is Livingston taking that shot?
Yep.
Let the clock, the shot clock run out.
I got a lot to say on this topic,
so
too.
Go ahead.
My first point is this.
Legs is fired up today.
I am, because
what you want to know.
Not just last night. I've never understood when did we get to the point that you have to take a shot clock violation at the end of a game as a pro athlete.
Yeah.
I understand if the shot clock's off and you have a lead and they're conceding.
Dribble out.
Right. Dribble out the clock. Of course.
Right.
It's a basketball play. The shot clock is running out. We got to this point now where we're not allowed to take that shot. Does this hurt your little feelings? So now we got to hand you the ball because we're running it up on a pro athlete.
Okay, I can go with that.
It's a rule. I've never understood it. Okay, but clearly that is something now that we do at the end of games.
It aggravated them, but was it worthy of getting tossed?
Off. I don't know that he should have tossed him that quickly. I think
it didn't look like he even made contact.
No, I think that was an overreaction by Tony Brothers to throw him out right there. And I don't know if that's him just, hey, man, let's just hope there's no escalation or anything here. I don't think it was going to escalate. He was walking away from him.
Yep.
Just let the game end and let's move on our way. Ejects him. Now, Tristan Thompson, once you're ejected, you better get off the court.
Yeah.
So I know Draymond Green is taunting you and he's doing what he's doing.
Doing what he does.
You've already been ejected. You can't react to it. He comes back in. He shoves the ball in his face. Now we're waiting on that. So that's one element.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Kevin Love.
Kevin Love stepped out. For those that don't know, Kevin Love.
Oh, I got a lot on that, too.
Oh, boy.
Hold on.
For those that really quickly didn't know, Kevin Love came on the court. He was out of the game then, came on the court a couple of feet. So that's basically a big-time no-no that could cost you the next game. So that's under review.
Which, again, that goes back to that infamous series in the 90s between the Knicks and the Heat where everybody came off the bench and they had to judiciously do that. We'll get into that.
All right.
Legler is fired up.
He is.
Like fired up Legler. We've got a lot to get to, and we will get to it all. All right, Golic and Wingo here with you. Fantastic tunes by Mikey C, Inside Mike, Dirty Deeds, Done Dirt Cheap
Seen him
by
8
AC/DC.
times. 8 times, baby. It's my favorite band of all time.
Come on.
Wow.
You've seen him 8 times?
Yes.
Nicely done.
Including as recently as, I guess, about a year and a half ago in Philly.
Wow. Look at you. You're a never-ending source of information. NBA analyst Tim Legler is with us. Okay, we discussed what happened with the block charge in Game 1 of the last week. Let's get back to the end of the game. The Cavs are down 1 with 4 seconds to play, 4.7 seconds to play in regulation. They got there to the free throw line because LeBron James, we think, and Ryan Hollins, our other NBA analyst, was in with us earlier, made the right play. George Hill was open. The only reason it wasn't for a layup was because Klay Thompson had to foul him to hook him there. So do you think LeBron made the right play by passing?
100%, because you had 2 defenders standing at the elbows waiting for him to put the ball on the floor. Draymond Green was guarding George Hill, had absolutely no idea where he was, no regard for him. LeBron drives, he's going to run into bodies. And it's a kick-out situation. Hill sees a gap, makes the cut. Klay Thompson basically saves an uncontested layup by grabbing him, dragging him to the ground. So no question he makes the right play.
First and foremost, Klay got beat, which he shouldn't have got beat, but he makes up for it by grabbing him and not letting him get the pass.
And maybe if that's Tristan Thompson, a 55% foul shooter,
maybe you do it.
Maybe LeBron is, he's because he's so smart and ahead of the curve,
knowing what's the next step.
Right. If they do foul him, he might not throw that Tristan Thompson. This is an 80% foul shooter, a guy you trust, a lot of playoff experience.
So he's at the line. Hill hits the first one. It's tie score 4.7 seconds ago. You're at the free throw line, and we talked about from Little League on in every sport, know what happens if the ball comes to me or what your situation is. Hill misses it. JR gets the rebound and dribbles out. Everybody's looking at him like, what are you, nuts? So what's the scenario there from him dribbling out, not shooting there, to nobody else calling a timeout, not even Ty Lue? What did you see or think in that situation?
Back up for 1 second, because J.R. Smith, after the game, tried to say that he knew it was tighter. So that's obviously ridiculous, because you can read his lips clear as day, so I thought we were ahead.
Right.
So at some point, he lost time. He lost track of the situation. Now, it could have possibly been at the other end of the floor when they were up 2 and Steph Curry got the 3-point play. Like maybe he's in the moment, he's processing a lot and he's not thinking that was a 3-point play. Now we're down 1. It's not tied. Now you go down the other end of the floor. Okay, now George Hill, it has to make the second one, and J.R. Smith is looking at the bench the entire time. He's not, first of all, you necessarily shouldn't have to be looking at the scoreboard because you should have already known,
right?
Okay, innately. You just have a feel for those situations. But he's looking at the bench the entire time, and he's kind of trying to figure out what are we going to do. Now, I personally think what was happening, he's processing the scenario in his mind before he shoots the second free throw that, okay, we're going to be up 1 here. Now we're going to defend.
So he thinks George is going to make that?
Correct. I think he's automatically making the assumption that he's going to make the free throw, and he's processing that. Like, what are we doing here? Like, are we sprinting back? Are we going to pressure up, token pressure? Are they going to call timeout? I don't know. And I think he's processing everything that's going to happen or could happen with a 1-point lead. Then the ball comes off the rim. He finds it in his hands. And then he just panics. Yeah. And now he dribbles out toward half court, clearly thinking the game is over.
Right.
And then tries to find somebody in the corner after the buzzer. It's too late.
So in your opinion, as Tim Legler is with us, look, obviously it's a bonehead decision by J.R. Smith, but 2 things could have prevented this from happening. One, George Hill making the free throw.
Yes.
You got to make that free throw, right?
I agree. Yeah,
okay.
And people that say, hey, man, free throws happen. Missed free throws happen. You'll compare that to a missed free throw in the second quarter.
Correct.
Okay, that's winning time, and that's why you have good foul shooters on the line in those situations to make those and either ice a game or win a game.
All right, so that's one issue. And we believe the Cavs had a timeout there. Why didn't anyone call a timeout?
Well, Tyronn Lue tried to explain that by saying it kind of happened so quickly. As he started to dribble out, he thought he was going to turn and shoot it. Then he goes, and then Tyronn Lue said, and then I saw LeBron was open. I thought the ball was going to go to LeBron for a shot, so he didn't want to interrupt that. And as a coach, I kind of get where, now, look, if it's me, I've coached a lot of basketball in my life. I'm standing there on the sideline, and I'm processing every possible thing that could happen on this shot. And that ball comes off the rim, I would have already been thinking about on an offensive rebound, as soon as that ball hit his hands, certainly as soon as I saw him start to take a dribble out toward the sideline, right? I'm calling timeout. And you probably have, 3.5 seconds maybe at that point. Tyronn Lue's basically saying once it got down into that 1 second range, you're thinking like, well,
it's too late then.
We're not going to get anything off now. It's too late.
But I would agree with you as a coach. You're sitting there thinking of all the scenarios, but I don't think there's any way in your mind one of the scenarios is he's dribbling the ball out because he thinks we're ahead. No. So I'm with you. He's probably thinking, is he going to turn and jump? Is he going to kick it out to LeBron to take a shot? I don't want to mess with that, but because there's no way he's thinking he's dribbling the ball out because he has the wrong score in his head.
The only truth in what happened out of J.R. Smith's mouth was when he got the rebound. I do agree that Kevin Durant's probably blocking that.
Exactly. Yes. I agree with that.
So he tries to separate, and I thought he's going to shoot a turnaround jumper. And then he just kept dribbling. Yeah. And the happiest guy in the world is Derek Harper, one of my favorite teams.
Thank you. That's the first name I brought up.
I said it in a moment.
Yeah, and then, of course, Magic Johnson did it in the finals that year against the Celtics.
Wow.
All right, this is why Legler's the best. You're not going anywhere. The last minute of regulation was crazy, but the Cavs actually lose the game before that. We'll get into that. Stay with us.
Right now, summer sports are in full swing. Baseball is firing on all cylinders, and there's a certain soccer tournament the world's watching. Something you should be watching is your vehicle's engine. That's why Pennzoil Synthetics gives you complete protection for top engine performance. Pennzoil. Make the switch.
Smith is going to run it out. I think JR didn't know how much time was left, and we're going to overtime. LeBron James is looking at him like he has to be the most idiotic individual on the planet Earth.
He thought it was over. He thought we were up 1.
It is rare that I am relatively speechless. That moment has officially arrived.
He continued to insist he knew the score was tied when he dribbled the ball out in regulation.
The most brain-dead, idiotic thing that I've ever witnessed.
Right.
In the case of J.R. Smith, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, we're fired up on a Friday morning. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And don't forget, and we've had some great ones so far, Mike, if you want to leave us a voicemail about what you thought about what went down in Game 1 of the NBA Finals, call us up, 860-506-5505. Give us what you think happened, and we will play some of the best ones on the air going forward. Glad you're with us. Mike Golic, Trey Wingo here, and Tim Legler, our NBA analyst, who doesn't want to leave, and we don't want him to either, because he's got the takes, and he is spewing them fast and furious today, and we'll get to a bunch more of them. Again, the majority of this show has been about what happened last night at Oracle. Warriors beat the Cavs by 10 in overtime, 124-114, but it was anything but a double-digit game. This was a back-and-forth contest. The Cavs actually were up 2 with 40 seconds left to play. Then the controversial block charge overturn on LeBron against Kevin Durant, which led to the game being tied, and then the issue with George Hill missing 1 of 2 free throws that would have won the game for him. All kinds of things there. So we have so much to get into. Tim, we've already gotten through the block charge. We've already gotten through the J.R. Smith thing. Again, you have another thing you want to get into? Let's go with it. What do you want to do here? You want to talk about
I want to ask one thing before we I want to get on the court. Let's talk about actual basketball play and where I think Cleveland was at their best last night, and you chime in on what was going to game 2. But first, from your standpoint as a player, take everybody into the locker room after the game in Cleveland. What's going on with J.R. Smith? Tristan Thompson got thrown out at the end of the game. Take us in the locker room. What's going on in there?
I'll back it up before that. I thought, to me, it was very telling what they looked like in the intermission between the end of regulation.
You mean the blank stares?
Blank stares, no communication, sitting there, trying to process what just happened, knowing they just hit them with every haymaker they could. And now they've got to go play 5 more minutes. I was really worried about their ability emotionally to reset. And then when they don't get the call with the George Hill strip, that was it.
Yep.
So right then I knew they were in trouble. So after the game, they go in the locker room. I can imagine at first, I've been not in a finals game, but I've been in games where that were just gut-wrenching losses where there's it's just silence at first. A lot of silence, and people are sort of milling around. At some point, I'm sure someone, I don't know if it was LeBron, because even at his press conference, he still seemed like he was still fuming. And Tyronn Lue as well. Somebody is going to basically start to talk and make guys understand that we have to put this behind us. The best thing in the world is that they've got 2 days off instead of 1.
Right.
So they don't have to play till Sunday night. It gives them an extra day to process all of this, get themselves right, and then you start to go and focus on the ways in which you outplayed them, which they did for large portions of the game, and focus on the things that aren't going to change, that are in your favor. And that's what they're now going to focus on over the next 2 days. But I can imagine it was a death march on that bus.
Oh my gosh.
Back to the hotel. Quiet, no one really talking, everyone kind of in their own thoughts processing, and that's kind of what coaches let guys do a lot of times. And now you come in this morning, and then now it's us against the world mentality. Everybody's writing us off. Here's what we're going to do. And you start to get your spirit back, and that's going to take another day. And by Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, I think they're going to be back in the same place they were prior to game 1 and feeling like we came out here to get a split. Let's get game 2, and we accomplished our mission.
Tim Legler with us, our NBA analyst in studio. First of all, Kevin Love. We got to touch on this real quickly. At the end of the game with the Tristan Thompson elbow he got ejected. Kevin Love was technically, he said he was on the court already talking to the official saying, I'm about to go in. And then he runs onto the court. We all know what happened in previous NBA situations where a guy runs onto the court to try and defend his guys. That's an automatic ejection for the next game. In light of how the controversial block charge call went down in game 1, do you think that Kevin Love's going to be suspended for game 2?
I hope not. And I don't think he should be, but I don't think it should have anything to do in looking at it and what happened earlier in the game. Like, you don't go, oh, you know what, they really kind of got tough break on that call, so let's give them this one. You've got to go by what the intent is supposed to be. Now, this is where I get fired up. I think the entire rule is absurd because it takes away the subjectivity of the league in looking at it. And I said the same thing when it happened with Amari Stoudemire that year, which was the best chance the Suns had to win a title during that run with Nash and D'Antoni, Stoudemire, and those guys. That cost him a game in a series against the Spurs that I think turned the series. And for me, if they can be subjective in looking at flagrant 1, flagrant 2, things like that, is there going to be a suspension, a fine when the league looks at it the next day in a regular season game or a playoff game? Why can't they also be subjective about a guy's intent? Was he out there instigating? Did he run out there to escalate?
That's a great point.
He took 1 foot and put it on the court,
Good
which is what Stoudemire basically did. He didn't get anywhere near the action. He didn't get near the altercation at all. I understand they don't want guys jumping off the bench and getting involved in a fight. I get it. Well, then be subjective in what you're looking at. If you just stand up on an NBA bench and take one step forward, you are on the court. Okay? Right. To not allow a player to at least have that much reaction, if they then control themselves and don't go out there and put their hands on anybody and touch anybody, to me, it should be very subjective and not black and white on the court suspended. And that's what I've always had a problem with the rule. They allow subjectivity in other areas. There should also be subjectivity there, and look at a guy's intent and did he escalate.
So the other side of that is
no suspension.
They need every one of those players because you're never sure outside of Kevin Love who's gonna be the guy. How about the reason he was on the court? Tristan Thompson, who got thrown out immediately with a flagrant 2 and made no contact. We were all stunned. Then pushes the ball in Draymond Green's face. Do you think he gets suspended for a game?
I think he will for this reason. Now, I agree. He never should have been ejected.
Nope.
Okay? Once you're ejected, you can't come then back onto the court and shove a ball in a guy's face. You're technically already supposed to be headed toward the locker room. You know, it's any ejection. I see guys not leave the court in a timely fashion. That's a problem. But then if you then take it further and you actually initiate physical contact with another player after you've been ejected, I mean, there's a good basis there to be suspended. I hope he's not, because I want to see both of these teams at full strength and see what happens, because that's just they're not deep as it is.
No.
So that's a blow. They can't lose anybody. And Golden State might have a guy coming back. Right. That's really important.
And Andre Iguodala.
So to me, I hope none of those things happen, but I do think there's a possibility, certainly for Tristan Thompson. And you know, if you really take it by the letter of the law, Kevin Love, I guess, is something they're going to have to look hard at.
Well, then there's the letter of the law, as Tim Legler, our NBA analyst, is with us, or the spirit of the law, and we'll figure out which one they go with, because that will be. Look, I hear what you're saying. They'll be refreshed and ready to steal one in Game 2, but without those guys, that might be impossible. Okay, but as we look at this game, obviously we focus on the end of the game because it's what we do. Everything in the last few minutes is much more, even though things that happened before that are just as important. For example, the end of the first half. At one point in the first half, the Cavs were up by 11 points, and I think they scored one bucket after that as Golden State did what they did. They went on an unbelievable run. But right before the end of the half, they let, and I got to say, the same guy, J.R. Smith, went for a steal when he let Steph Curry get loose. And as soon as Steph Curry turned and there was nobody in front of him, everybody's like, oh, he's making that shot. And that tied the game. Those are the little things also that gets lost in the wash with the block charge and the missed free throw. But you can make an argument that was just as important as anything. That's a layup for Steph Curry. That's what he does in warm-ups consistently. And that went from a 3-point lead to a tie game at the half.
Yeah, and some people will say, well, what difference does that make? They still had a chance later to win the game. They were in control. And here's where I disagree. I kind of agree with what you're saying.
It all matters.
And not just the shot. I'll finish it with that. But when they're up 11, you've got a chance there if you manage those possessions, okay?
Correct.
You might go in up 8, 6, 10, 14. Who knows? That last 4 minutes or whatever that was, because it was 51-40. That last 4 minutes, manage that better. You got a double-digit lead going into the locker room. You feel a lot different, okay? But whatever. They still that's a great team, and they still had basketball to play, and now they basically wipe it out. But here's where Cleveland still had the opportunity. They're up 3 with a 6-second difference on the shot clock, game clock, with the ball. Score, you're up 5 or 6, and they've got about 6 to 10 seconds. Maybe you get a stop. You walk in up 5-6. You just played a great half. You feel great. Not only do you not score, you then make that play.
Right.
So now this half that you played that you couldn't have played much better, it's tied. And not only is it tied, you're walking off the floor to one of those, and the roof is blown off the building. And look at the body language. If you show the replay one more time, look at the 3 Cavs directly under the rim as they're walking off the floor. I think it's Kevin Love, LeBron, somebody else, if they can possibly show that again. So it's a terrible gamble. You'll see right here. So watch the ball go in. Now watch these 3 Cavaliers: Tristan Thompson, LeBron. Oh, great.
Right.
Yeah, here we go.
Body language was everything.
And look at the Warriors bench. Yeah. They're coming onto the court like they're back at the club. I always called their bench like a nightclub. Like that's how much fun they're having over there, right? So the club lets out, and now they're walking out on the court. So it's momentum shifts. You feel a lot differently at halftime. Now they recovered well, but for me, it was the last 5 minutes of the second into the first 5 minutes of the third. That to me was the stretch where they were most outplayed, the Cavs. And other than that, I thought they controlled most of the first 48 minutes.
Okay, we're going to let you go to SportsCenter in a couple minutes. But a lot of people think that the Cavaliers are mentally spent and are going to get destroyed in Game 2. How can they not be? What are your thoughts? How can Golden State is a little interesting after they win Game 1. So talk about that possibility.
Well, I disagree with that mentality, and people think that that's what it's going to have to the Cavs from the standpoint I've been here before. They have great resiliency, and LeBron James is too mentally tough to allow that to happen. Okay, that's first. Secondly, there were things that Golden State did defensively. If they keep doing that throughout the series, LeBron James is going to have a bunch of 40-point games, and primarily you can't just keep switching Steph Curry on LeBron James and ball screens. They did it all night.
All night.
And some of it unnecessarily so because he's 30 feet from the basket and all he wants is the switch. You have time to keep Durant or Iguodala if he plays a game 2, whoever on him. They chose not to. And if you look at the last 3 minutes of the game, LeBron was at the rim 3 times in that matchup. He can get wherever he wants to. There's no shot blocker back there. So if they keep doing that, LeBron James is going to continue to have these kinds of games. If that's the case, you're going to be in one-possession games late. And one thing I've always said about the Warriors, where they all susceptible, if you can get them in a one-possession game in the last 3 minutes, they tend to go for the kill shot.
Right.
Repeatedly. And if you can get them to do that, you can steal a game. So if I'm Tyronn Lue, LeBron James in that group, I'm focusing on that now. Not right now. They feel terrible waking up today. Over the course of the weekend and by Sunday afternoon, you get yourself back in that mindset. These are all the great things we did. They're going to continue. Manage it differently if we get him in a one-possession game again. Let's get this game. Let's get a steal. LeBron James is too good. He's got too much experience for being in adversity in big moments. He's going to get the team ready to play.
All right, Leg, we appreciate it, brother.
All right.
Thanks,
we'll lean on you again after Game 2.
Yeah,
always enjoy it. Tim Legler with us, and we'll see what happens. Game 2 of the NBA Finals, 8 o'clock Eastern on Sunday, ABC and ESPN Radio.
So much to talk about.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, the game, and we didn't even get a lot to the actual game itself. One of the things I thought was so impressive for the Cavaliers was 19 offensive rebounds. Yeah. They destroyed Golden State on the boards, and they got 19 offensive rebounds. Now, they didn't shoot that great sometimes after it, but they got extra chances for it. I thought their hustle was really, really good. So that was a big positive. And the other big positive to me is we always see it as much as they gave up that 11-point lead and it was tied at halftime, you started to see Golden State make that run in the third.
Like they always do.
Cleveland cut it off, and Cleveland put on a run of their own and was only down 6 going in the fourth quarter. So I thought that was pretty damn impressive that they didn't let Golden State get outscored 33-15 like they've done, to others and blow them out like that. So they kept themselves in it and put themselves right in it at the end of the game. And that's what happens in postseasons is the fact that you accent the positive. You don't go over the negatives a whole lot, but you really accent, okay, this is what worked. This is what we need to keep doing.
They did everything but win the game. And we'll see if they can find a way to take the positive out of that heading into Game 2. Okay, Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Obviously, Game 1 of the NBA Finals dominating a lot of the discussion. But Tiger Woods back on the course, playing the Memorial tournament he's won 5 times out of 15 events. So basically, he's Hall of Faming this event. He's winning at a 33% clip. However, it was a shaky start again. And by the way, the last competitive round he played there was an 85 in 2015, the worst professional round of his career. So where is Tiger Woods at Memorial, and where is he with his back? Our ESPN golf analyst and former caddy, Michael Collins, is with us, and he joins us from Dublin, Ohio. Mike, good morning. First and foremost, obviously, this is the trend for Tiger Woods all year. Play terrible on Thursday and Friday, sneak in and then play lights out on the weekend. But the bigger concern, Michael, Tiger for the first time that I can recall ever acknowledged an injury after a round. He said his back was tight and he's had to deal with this before this year. He knew it was going to be a struggle today. Obviously knowing that the back has been fused together, how much of a concern is that for you?
Well, it's a little bit of a concern for me. And first, I just want to tell you guys on this discussion that you're having with the Cleveland Cavaliers, I would tell J.R. Smith, stay off of social media forever from now until the series is over. Who cares how mentally strong LeBron is? Like, you don't need J.R. Smith. And that's been the talk all on the driving range this morning. The reason I'm inside is a big rain showers come through. So I was outside. But your boy is kind of like the Wicked Witch of the West when it comes to rain. Now that I don't have to caddy anymore, if I don't have to get wet, I'm not getting wet out there. I'm just saying. So when you talk about Tiger Woods and his back stiffening up, it is kind of wild too. Like I asked him in the presser after his round, I said, hey, when did your back loosen up? And he goes, it didn't. Excuse me? What do you mean it didn't? And he goes, that's just how it's going to be from now on. Which, like you said, coming from Tiger Woods, we've never heard that before. We've never heard Tiger Woods say, I got a problem, and it's just going to be the way it's going to be. But he also said, you know what? I knew that was going to be an issue and could be an issue. But for me, a stiff back against a back that was in the pain that it was in, I'll take stiff any time compared to pain. And so then after his presser, he and I were walking up to the clubhouse together, and I go, hey, man, when did you know? When did you realize that your back was going to be stiff and it be a problem? And he goes, I was still in bed when I woke up, and I knew. Now, the concern is, as you said, Tiger's Thursdays and Fridays, coming into this week, he was +3 in 16 rounds. So yesterday he shoots even par. That's 17 rounds on Thursdays and Fridays, and Tiger still is +3. Now on the weekends, he's -24. Why would that be the case? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because if you make the cut on the number and you're 14 shots off of the lead, guess what you can do on Saturday? You can play free and loose because you got no chance whatsoever to win. And then, of course, Tiger puts that spectacular round together and gets in the mix. And everyone's like, yes, it's on now. And then he gets into the mix on Sunday, and there's a shot or two that you go, that was a little squirrely. And that's what Jack Nicklaus was talking about earlier this week when he said Tiger mentally is not ready to win. Physically, he's ready to win. But now we come back to the back, and that's the stiffness in the back. Yesterday, he made an adjustment because of the stiffness in his back. Let's say this morning he wakes up and his back feels fantastic and everything is perfect. Well, guess what? The swing that he was using yesterday with a stiff back, not going to work when his back is perfect because he doesn't have to protect against anything. So those first couple of holes where he was snap hooking it left with a stiff back, what's he going to do when he gets out on a golf course and it feels fine? Because that's not the swing he was using on Thursday. And some way, somehow, Tiger's got to find a way to shoot even par or better. At least if he wants to have a realistic shot going into the weekend. Because of the way that the weather is, because that there's rain but no lightning, these guys are going to play. With a soft golf course and softer greens, they're going to be firing at flag sticks, which means they can shoot lower scores, which also means then Tiger has to shoot lower scores. So for us in the golf that love, following Tiger around and hoping that he can get back to some semblance of what the old Tiger was, whatever that might mean, seeing him play well on Friday and shoot under par would be a huge deal.
So we know he's averaged 71 on Thursdays, 72 on Fridays, and then has monster weekends. But as you just pointed out, he's too far behind. But we see him play on the weekends, and then everybody says, oh, he's coming back. We see a win, maybe a major, but we definitely see a win. Are we going too far with that? And is he just not consistent enough from Thursday, Friday to the weekend? Are there over expectations now? Does he need longer, obviously, to do this?
Yeah, we are so spoiled, Mike, man. This is the problem. It's Tiger Woods. The dude puts on the Superman suit. So we remember the guy from 2000. He was flying around just into burning buildings, saving babies, coming out and just going to car wrecks, getting there. He was saving the world as a golfer. It was awesome. And then he got hurt, and it's been hurt for a long time. And we were like, well, it might be over. And then he comes back at the Hero this year. And it's like, man, this is great. He's got speed. All his numbers are up. He's hitting it forever. He looks fantastic. He's acting like the old Tiger Woods back on the golf course. He gets into contention at Tampa. And everyone's like, it's on now. Here we go. And no one thinks to themselves, hold up. How many tournaments has he played? Nine tournaments? If you ask any other golfer out there, if you came off of back surgery, where would you hope to be after 9 tournaments? Right. They'd be like, maybe make a cut. I don't know. But because it's Tiger Woods and he shows these flashes, and Tiger starts playing good, everybody turn on the TV. Even people that don't like golf, it's like, Tiger's doing it again. Turn on the TV, right? So then they're like, well, he's going to win a major next week. Be like, calm down. It doesn't work like that. Like, there are steps that you have to go through. And even if you're Tiger Woods and you put the Superman suit on, you're like, bruh, your cape still has a little piece of kryptonite in it, okay? Yeah. So don't fly. And how do you tell that to Tiger Woods, too? Hey, Tiger, don't fly, man. Your cape got a little kryptonite. Don't tell me I'm Tiger Woods. Right. Fine, then fly into that brick wall and see what happens. Go ahead. Just go on ahead, man. I'm tired of arguing with you all the time.
Michael Collins with us, our golf analyst and former caddy. If you're looking for optimism here, the best thing I think you can say is what we saw Tiger Woods do on Thursday was salvage around, right? I mean, when he was at his best, I've seen him turn 74s into 68s. He turned a 77 into a 72. And if you're looking for any good news, that was the most important thing of what he did on Thursday.
He's the ultimate grinder. He is the greatest grinder that we saw. He didn't hit his first fairway until the 5th hole. I mean, it was going everywhere. It was left and right. And the last thing you want Tiger to do is be playing army golf. Just left, right. Cause as a golfer, like, you got no chance. But this is Tiger Woods. This is why he makes these great comebacks. He had 16 putts in his first 9 holes. On his second 9 holes, he had 13. And I mean, he had 1 3-putt. The numbers would have been even better. He hit 6 out of 7 fairways on his second 9 holes. That means he found something and grounded out, found a way. 3 straight birdies coming in. And then that great par save on number 9. And as he said, hate finishing on bogeys. You got to find a way to make a par. And when Tiger does stuff like that, again, that's the old Tiger Woods too. So you know that dude's in there. And now we're just thinking, okay, how's his back going to feel when he comes out today?
Well, we'll find out. Hopefully, if the weather dissipates, we'll find out what's on going forward. Michael, we appreciate you being with us this morning. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael.
Anytime. The good thing in golf, no referees. They can't mess nothing up.
Sometimes they can't anymore because they can't take it back to the viewer. Can't call in anymore. Because you got to call it on yourself.
Thanks, Michael.
Michael's the best.
I love him.
He's awesome.
He is just fantastic.
All right, coming up, the NBA waded into some waters that the NFL is desperately trying to get out of after they've been swimming in them for years. And speaking of which, someone in the NFL is going to be wading into some water of his own. Mm-hmm. We'll tell you about that.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
All right, Golic and Wingo reminding you that baseball season is underway. Tune in tomorrow night as Jose Altuve and the world champion Astros host the Red Sox. Presented by Barbasol Razors. Coverage begins at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and the ESPN app. There's a lot going on in Cleveland right now, Mike, and we'll get into a lot of it will happen in Game 1. But there is something else happening in Cleveland. That is a debt being paid. And it's not the poop eater.
No, it is not.
We're still waiting on the hammer.
Aaron Goldhammer
of ESPN Cleveland to acknowledge and live with his thing that he said he would eat horse poop if they drafted Baker Mayfield. He's that guy. He's going to be a horse poop eater.
Yes, he is.
Just hasn't done it yet. But remember, Hugh Jackson, the Browns head coach, said after the Browns finished 1-15 in 2016, he said, there's no way we're going 1-15 again. No, or I'll be swimming in the lake over there somewhere, and that's Lake Erie.
Oh, they didn't go 1-15.
He was correct, actually. He technically had an out because they didn't go 1-15. They went 0-16. But he decided to avoid the loophole. He is now taking the plunge today into Lake Erie at a place and a time where the Browns are keeping secret. When he does, he will fulfill a vow he never thought he would have to keep. Why keep it secret, man? Own it, right? Own it.
Why not?
Make it a spectacle.
You made it. Own it. I'm with you.
This is like the draft lottery.
I've been to Lake Erie many a times growing up.
Yeah,
growing up on the east side of Cleveland. There, absolutely.
Just own it, man. Do it for raise some money for charity. Do the whole thing. Mm-hmm. At a time and location to be kept secret.
Okay.
One thing that is not secret anymore is that obscure rule in the NBA where apparently it's been in there since 2012. You can go and review the rule, whether it was in the restricted area or not. It goes back to the call with 40 seconds left in the game. Kevin Durant drives in. LeBron sweeps in. It is called a charge on the floor.
It's called, two refs. One calls the charge. The other calls a block. Looks like the charge is going to be the call. But they do have an out. They can go to review if he was in the restricted area. They can't go to review specifically for was it a block or was it a charge. But once they go to the review, if he was in the restricted area or not, now they can look to see if it was a block or a charge, and they can change a judgment call. I didn't know about that rule. You didn't know about that rule. It's been there since 2012. I think it's a horrific rule when you can change a judgment call. But it is a rule, and they changed the call.
I'm curious to see if they change that rule going forward, because basically what the NBA is doing with this rule, and it's never really been played out on the stage before, that's why it's so new to everybody.
Right.
The NBA is doing exactly what the NFL is trying to run away from as fast as they possibly can, which is not using the nuances of replay to determine something on the field. I mean, what have we always been talking about for the last 2 years? What is a catch? What's not a catch? Nobody seems to know. The NFL finally said, we realized this was ruining the game. and it was slowing things down, and it was taking away things that probably should have been ruled the other way. So we're not doing that anymore. We're not going through microcosms in HD frame by frame to figure out whether or not his left foot was moving or his shoulder was turned. We're going to stick with the call on field and empower the referees a little more. And now the NBA wants to do this. I don't see in any way, shape, or form how it's a win for the NBA.
Is there, and I've seen a few tweets on it, do you think there is any way that, now what happens when we've seen, multiple officials in games when at least two think they're different, they all get together and huddle. Now, if they all huddled without going to review and change the call, that happens many times in many sports. You all get together and you discuss, hey, I saw a charge, I saw a block, I saw pass interference, I didn't, and you make the decision without review. Is there any way you think that they all could have got together and the one ref said, I really saw a charge, and the other ref said, I really saw a block here, and they said, well, you know what? We can't hash this out here, but we can go look at it by saying we think, let's go check if he was in the restricted area. That gives us a right to go to the TV, and now we can look at it in slow motion, whether it was a block or a charge. I mean, who knows? They have that in their back pocket if they want to.
Do you like that, though?
No, I hate it.
It's so bogus.
Listen, I hate it, but
Be
it is
convicted.
But it's a rule.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and complain a lot about it because it is a rule. When they went there to the review about the restricted area, they're allowed to look at it. And quite honestly, that wouldn't be in the spirit of the rule to say, we can't decide, so let's just use the restricted area, which they'll never admit they did. They're going to say, we really wonder if he was in the restricted area.
He was so far outside the restricted area. Give me a break.
But no, I hate that rule. But it is a rule. So, they were allowed to do exactly what they did. Overall, I thought the officials were not good in this, and I'm not saying for one side or the other. I'm saying overall, I do not think they did very well in this game. And Jeff Van Gundy brought up a great point. He's like, they bring out the last 2 minutes of the officiating, and they make it public, basically. Right. He goes, why don't they? He goes, they grade the officials on every single play in every single game. He goes, if there's a controversial call in the second quarter, why can't we know about it? Correct. Why can't we see it? Why can't all of that be available to us? Because that could be a very detrimental call. Why is it only the last 2 minutes of the game?
It's
interesting.
Well, it's the same way in the NFL. They grade people after every game, and they come out and say, this guy got it right, this guy got it wrong. Yeah. They do it every week.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We give the NBA and Commissioner Adam Silver a ton of credit, deservedly so, for being extremely progressive on a lot of fronts and figuring out how can we make our game better, how can we be better partners with our players. But I got to say, in this instance, I think the NFL's got it all over the NBA and how they're handling this stuff.
Well, I'm not going to go too far with that. We haven't. It's been decades, and we're still figuring out what a catch is.
Right,
it's not like they're really progressive,
and they want to take judgment out of it, and they don't want the judgment to be part of the slow-mo HD replay.
It took them a while,
but
so
they're there.
Okay, they're there, and this is. I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but the bottom line is I don't like this rule in the NBA for sure, and we'll see if they change it after, because we've never really seen it before. There are many people in the league that didn't even know about this rule.
Right. And by the way, there are other people who agree with us that this rule may be a rule now. It may not be a rule next year. Here's Michael Wilbon.
That rule has to be changed. I mean, just walking around this arena talking to former players on other teams, former coaches, almost nobody knew that 5 years ago the NBA instituted a rule that said you could go back and look at something like a judgment call. This isn't foot on the line, visual evidence. This isn't ball out of bounds, went off somebody's hands, visual evidence. This is a judgment call, which the league says it doesn't want replay to deal with. Leaning. Was he stationary? Was he moving? Was he sideways? You can't get into that and then go to replay. That call has to be made on the court and kept within the authority of the game officials.
See, that's the issue, right? That's the issue right there.
Without a doubt. And we're getting some tweets. Tucker says, I understand people not knowing all the rules, NBA rules, but maybe if Coach Lue knew the rules, he could have argued in the moment that LeBron wasn't close to the restricted area. Tucker, that wouldn't have helped a bit. No. Do you think that because a coach is going to say to a ref, hey, he wasn't near the restricted area, oh, okay, you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to review it. It doesn't work that way. They're not going to listen to the coach and take the coach's word for it.
You're saying you're right because it benefits your player?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
With you 100%, Ty.
Oh, wait, he wasn't?
What were we thinking?
Okay, I'm sorry. So that it wasn't going to work that way. Those guys, they were going to review that, and they're allowed to review it.
Right. So in your gut, knowing that this is what we're talking about as much as J.R. Smith's blunder at the end of the game, is this rule in effect next year or not? Because you can't change it now.
No.
Even though the NFL did by saying they were implementing things in the Super Bowl.
I would love it to be gone. You can go one of two ways. The league can look at it and say, man, this came up in a really highlighted spot that really got a lot of bad attention. Or they could say, you know what? This has only come up this one time. So, I mean, do we really need to change it?
Yes.
I would love it. Listen, I would love it to be changed.
Yeah.
I would love it to be gone. I don't think any judgment call should be reviewable. I do not. Not interference, not holding, not block, not charge. You make the call in the moment and you live with that. You don't go back and break it down frame by frame. Because as Leg said, he's right. How many people are still looking at the slow motion replay and still saying, well, maybe because that was my thought. Because I'm so stuck on the NFL saying it's got to be 100%. It has to be without question.
Irrefutable evidence.
And it never says that in the NBA about the review. It has to be irrefutable. It's just you look at it a little more and say, I think maybe that might have been a block and not a charge, so we're going to change it. Because I thought even when we went to replay, I'm like, is there going to be enough info there to change that call? In their eyes, there was.
There was, maybe only in their eyes. Yeah. And we'll see what happens going forward.
The bear trap got him, though, right?
The bear trap got him.
That's why I'm more of a bear claw guy.
That's exactly what I said. It's like you guys are the same or something.
Apple tree, not far from falling.
The donut doesn't fall far from the box.
It's Golic and Wingo.
There are times, and that was one of them, I have no idea we were talking about.
Well,
Sports Center.
That's the show.
Sports Center is brought to you by Dell. Dell Small Business Technology Advisors. No, there's nothing small about your business. That's why we offer one-on-one partnership and reliable business PCs with Intel Core processors to help you get business done. Give them a call, 877-BUY-DELL. That's 877-BUY-DELL.
All right, Golic and Wingo with you, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We'll get to your voicemails quickly, but a couple of things. You got big plans for the weekend? Anything fun you're doing?
Nothing really crazy at this point, no.
Our boy Stanczyk's running a half marathon.
Really?
Yeah, running a half marathon this weekend.
Oh, now you've run a few of those,
He's
right?
run marathons and everything.
I know that, but you've run a few halves, have you not, Dan?
Yeah, probably like 15.
What's your best time?
1:30 and 2 seconds.
That's really good.
Very quickly, because I'm not going to do the math that quick. What does that come out to a mile?
6:53.
That's impressive.
That is impressive.
I think I could run 1 mile at 6:53 and then vomit for an hour.
That is
so nicely done. But I'm also racing this weekend. I'm in a race, yeah. I'm going to be at the Detroit Grand Prix. I'm going to get in the car with Ari Leindijk in the Honda's fastest seat in sports, taking an opening lap.
Oh, you're not running.
I'm sitting and letting somebody else do all the work.
That's awesome, though, because you're going to drive really fast, aren't you?
Yeah, the question will be, will I be able to control certain things?
You mean
Yeah.
You're going to get to drive at all?
Only if they're really stupid.
Because I thought it was cool at the Indy 500. Didn't Victor Oladipo, he was driving the pace car.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
I don't think they're going to let me do that.
No?
But I have some footage of it on Monday, so I'll bring it back.
I like that.
It'll
Okay.
be fun.
Okay,
part of your thing is streak for the cash, big guy.
Whatever.
Let's get this out of the way real quickly.
All right.
You did not pick the Cavs. You got picked last week because you were off.
Right.
But you're wrong in picking the Cavaliers over the Celtics in Game 1, so you got to go back to the start. Small snack around the office.
Okay.
We're going, you can take that now, or you can take the Knights against the Capitals, tied at 1 apiece. If you get that right, then you get a bite-sized candy bar. So you're going to take the snack around the office?
I don't want the bites. I don't want the little snack around the office. I'm going to say Vegas gets the win in Washington.
Vegas gets the win in Washington?
Yeah, that's where I'm going to go. Vegas gets the win.
And if you're right, then we're risking a bite-sized candy bar for a full-size candy bar next week. Okay?
Beautiful. Yep.
So that's that. So let's get to some of your phone calls about what went on at the end of the game. Here's one.
Yeah, this is Big Al from Patterson, New Jersey. We're talking about the big blunder J.R. Smith had at the end of the game there, but we're overlooking in the first half, he had a big blunder too by taking the gamble on Stephon Curry and bang, hits a big three to tie the game at 56. Tough to put it on one player, but he had a bad night mentally.
Big Al
nailed it.
Big Al talking about a big blunder. At the end of the half, the Cavs were up 3. Time was running out. Steph got the ball about half court on a pass, and JR went for the steal, missed it, left Steph wide open for a long 3, tied it up right at halftime.
Okay, so that's someone saying Big Al. By the way, love Big Al.
Big Al.
Big Al from Patterson, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. That's our guy. Saying it was a big blunder at the first half and the second half, and we agreed. Then there's the other side of the spectrum. Quit picking on JR.
I think we should leave J.R. Smith alone. He's just too good of a basketball player to put down like we are. Everyone makes mistakes. That's his one mistake. So he'll be fine next time, okay?
You know what he'd be good at? He'd be good at the comfort thing.
Yeah.
If people are having a bad day,
Dauber down coach.
He'd be the come over. I'm gonna
Dauber down coach.
I'm gonna pick your spirits up a little bit right now. He had a nice soothing voice as well. You know, the world needs people like that. There are those that will kick someone in the butt, and there will be those that someone will put an arm around you, offer you a lifesaver, and say, "Let's talk about it. Things aren't that bad."
However, in this situation, you just can't make those two mistakes. I get what I'm that guy. I'm the hey, you got to mama cat him a little bit. You know, take your paw. He'll be fine. It'll be good. You just can't make those two mistakes.
No, you can't.
In a game that you had every chance to win and every chance to steal, you can't do that.
I'm going to be real interested now in Game 2 because we have seen Golden State take care of business and then sometimes be lax the next game. Now, you wouldn't think after playing this game that you would be real lax because you didn't really dominate this game by any stretch of the imagination. But we have seen them, relax a bit, have a lot. The key will be look in the turnover column. They turn the ball over a lot when they get a little, when they, as people say, when they hear that sweet Georgia Brown music, and they start doing some Globetrotter
start feeling
stuff.
Themselves.
Yeah. And for Cleveland, how quickly you get out of this funk and realize we're still here. We still have the chance to get a split. We know we let a great opportunity go away. At some point, the leader, which is LeBron, you got to rally these troops and say, okay, be a good cornerback. Put it out of your mind. The past is the past. Let's move forward and concentrate on the good things that we did.
The only thing I think is different from this as opposed to what happened in the Western Conference Finals, those first two games were on the road.
They were.
And they were like, we accomplished our mission.
First game we did.
We went in and stole. We got the split no matter what, so it's back on us and home court advantage, which they weren't able to hold, and they had to go back there for Game 7. But the difference there is, I think, hey, we're at home. Let's drop the freaking hammer.
I agree. I'm trying, man.
I know.
Cleveland fan, I'm trying.
Fun times in Cleveland.
Any way I can.
We'll see what happens. By the way, if they do go down 2-0, we have a special treat for all Cleveland fans that's going to help them get right. We have found our get right coach.
Really?
I don't want to give it away.
Okay.
Don't want to give it away.
Wow.
But should Cleveland fall 2-0, we're going to have a guest on the show next week who can perfectly say, you guys will be okay.
Okay.
Game 2, Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern on ABC and ESPN Radio. Weekend! Have fun, everybody.